So, welcome everyone. Hi, can I get a big wave from everyone so I know everyone's technology is working? Hi. My name's Ashley and I'm from the AOC, and today we have Emma Moffat and Courtney Atkinson joining us. They're triathletes and they've just raced the test St Phillips and Cessnock. Can you guys give us a wave? And we have fun girls in Tasmania. Can you girls give us a wave? Alrighty, so I'm going to hand over to you, Emma, to start off with and give a little bit of an introduction, and then when you finish, Courtney, I'll get you to jump on in after, and then we'll take some questions. Maybe from you first, St Phillips, and then we'll get you girls to go. Is that alright?
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name's Emma Moffat, and I compete in triathlons, which is swimming, riding, and running. I first started doing triathlons when I was a really young kid, and did it all through high school, and then when I went off to university, I kept doing it, and then in about 2007, I realised that maybe one day I could make the Olympics, and that dream for me came true in 2008 when I made my first Olympics in Beijing. It was a pretty surreal experience for me because I wasn't really expecting to probably first make the team, and then I went there and went above and beyond what I ever thought I would do, and I got a bronze medal at that Olympic Games.
Myself and Emma are both in Rio at the moment. So Rio in Brazil, where the next year's Olympic Games are going to be, but we're in different hotels, so I think her internet's running a bit slower than mine. But my name's Courtney Atkinson, right, and I've been, the same as Emma said, I've been to the last 2 Olympic Games, Beijing, and then London Olympic Games. And just like you guys at school, I did some swimming and I did some running, and then when I left high school, I pretty much ever since, this has been my job. I just swim, bike, and run. So I've never ever, I suppose, done anything different. And even in high school, you know, I like to think that I was out racing, doing triathlons and running, racing on the weekends, trying to make some pocket money instead of, you know, working down at McDonald's. So this is all I've known, and I'm trying, myself at the moment, I'm trying to become the first Australian triathlete, along with Emma, to visit 3 Olympic Games. Today, myself and Emma, were both over here doing, testing the course for the next year's Olympics. So there was a race here on a famous beach called Copacabana Beach, and it also doubled as our first selection race for the Olympic team. But the main thing was that we were here testing the course, because in triathlon, the way you race the course, or the course that the organisers of the Olympics give us, makes a real big difference depending on where you. Like here, we swim at the beach. Sometimes we swim in lakes. Sometimes in rivers. It all depends. So here we have a beach swim. It's just like being home in Australia. The ride has quite a nasty hill in it, so we, you know, by racing on it, you get a feel, and then the runs along the beach here as well.
Read your question. Yes, sweetie?
Only 1 or 2.
Just one of them. Bend down so you can see. You want to see yourself just there, yeah? Big voice.
I can see you.
How old was you when you started training?
When I started training, well, I swam probably since I was about 5 or 6 years old, and then I started triathlons when I was in later high school. And like I said, then I haven't done anything else since. Yes.
And do we have another question? Not perfect.
Where do you train?
I live at home in the Gold Coast, and mainly I train in a forest, in the state forest. I do a lot of my running and riding out in the you know, on the dirt trails in the forest, and then I swim in a pool, or sometimes I swim in the lake.
Perfect.
How many hours?
Bend down so you can.
How many hours do you train?
How many? Well, it's like a full-time job for me, like your
How
mum and
many hours do you train?
Even
yeah.
nothing close. Big voice.
I got it.
How many hours do you train?
So I train like a full-time job. Like your mum and dad's go to work, I pretty much go out and train for the day. But some days it's only 2 hours of training, but then we also get massage, we also go to the gym. But some days we can train up to 6 hours of riding our bikes and running.
Wow.
Big voice.
How do you recover quickly from your race to be ready for your next competition?
That's a good question. Let me think. We generally make sure we warm down a little bit, and then we really quickly after we race, we take on some special foods that are prepared for us. So sometimes it's if we're at a race that we can't actually get proper food, we have kind of like a shake that has stuff in it that helps us recover.
Which one do you prefer, running, swimming, or riding?
Oh, it depends if it's Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. Changes every day. That's the best thing about triathlon is some days your swim can be the favourite, and other days the bike can be the favourite. But most of the time, my running's my best leg.
Were you nervous about going to the Olympics?
Yeah, but you do. Everyone gets nervous, that's for sure. But also, I think a lot of the nerves is just excitement. We train, our whole lives when we're doing sport, we try and get to the Olympic Games. So when you get there, it's pretty exciting.
Why do you like triathlon?
Why do I like it? I like it because it's got variety. It's a sport that I chose. I like it because I managed to be pretty good at it. But then second, when I'm training and racing, there's always different things to train for.
What would you do if you didn't get into the Olympics?
I suppose I'd have to get a real job.
Okay. So, what other sports do you like?
I like snowboarding, surfing, and then I also ride my mountain bike a lot.
What's the coldest water you've ever had to swim in?
Had to swim in? It was in... I'm just trying to think. Have you heard about Alcatraz Prison? No, you probably haven't. Do you know Alcatraz Prison in San Francisco Bay, where you see the Golden Gate Bridge? Yeah? So I did a race where I had to swim from Alcatraz Prison all the way back to the beach in San Francisco. And I think the day we did that, it was 11 degrees in the water. Yeah, so I didn't have the best of races today. Didn't all work out fine for me, but that happens in triathlon. There's lots of different variables that happen in the swim, bike, and the run. But the main thing for me today was that I got to see the course, and the next year at the actual Olympic Games triathlon, that we know exactly what we've got to train for, and be prepared for what's going to happen. So my race today. The thing is, we race a fair bit during the year, and then so all you have to do when you don't have your best race, it's nice and easy. You start concentrating on the next one, and just try and get out there. Try and do things a little bit better and race better next time around.
And what were your two Olympic experiences like? If you can sort of compare Beijing and London. what's it like going to the Olympics? I think that's the big question that everyone always wants to know.
Yep. So, you know, my first experience of the Olympics was when we actually got to the when we actually got to the Olympic Village, where all the thousands of athletes from around the world all stay together. You walk into this big dining hall, and that's where everyone goes to eat their food. And it's about 3 football fields big. And the first thing you actually see when you walk in there's a 24-hour McDonald's. So any time of day you want, you can walk up to the McDonald's and order whatever you want. So that was my first experience. That was the first thing I can remember about going to the Olympics in Beijing. And then in London, you know, it was having an Olympics in China and then having an Olympics in the United Kingdom were completely different. But the thing I remember most about London was the fact that we got to race in Hyde Park and actually rode our bikes past Buckingham Palace. So we got to ride. We actually rode our bikes around where the Queen lives, and along the same roads that a lot of the famous things in the United Kingdom have been done on. So that was a different experience, but a special experience. Yeah, I mean, Rio, it's very similar to Australia. I'm not sure where the schools are we're talking to exactly, but it's very similar to the East Coast of Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the beaches in Australia are very, very similar to where we are here. It's very busy, though, and I think the best thing for the Australians is you feel... We're getting an echo, aren't we?
Yeah, a little bit. Oh, good.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing. The internet's not great over here in where we are. So, yeah, I mean, the beaches here are very similar to Australia, so I think the best thing for the Olympic team coming to Rio to compete is you feel like you're at home to an extent where, you know, for us in the triathlon racing along the beaches, it just feels like we could be at home racing, you know, on the Gold Coast where I live or somewhere like that, so that makes it nice and comfortable.
One more question from you guys, St. Phillips, and then one from you, Farn. St. Phillips, do you have another question that you'd like to ask Courtney?
Do you get nervous with everybody watching you compete?
When I was younger, yeah, I definitely did when I first started out, but now it's kind of just become normal. So I actually it's good to have the support of everyone watching you. Especially when you're racing at the Olympics, it's nice knowing that everyone's supporting you back home.
What state and suburb was your first triathlon in?
Ooh. It was at home on the Gold Coast, and it was in the car park of SeaWorld. You know, I'm sure some of you have probably been to SeaWorld.
Oh dear. Well, we might let Courtney get some sleep soon because I know it's getting quite late in Rio and I'm sure he's tired. But Courtney, if you just want to, you know, give these kids one message about sport and the Olympic Games before you sign off.
Yep. About sport, I mean, as I've been doing this for a long time, as I said, as a job, but the thing that has stuck with me are the friends that I've made through sport, right from when I was... Some of my best friends now are still mates who I actually ran again and raced against at high school. And now we have families and we all still hang out together. So sport's not only great to keep you fit, but also, you know, it creates great friends. And for the Olympics, yeah, if you've got dreams of going to the Olympic Games, you've just got to work hard and chase them, but the biggest thing is you just got to be consistent and work hard. Not a lot of people get to go to the Olympic Games, and the ones who do, and like myself, you know, we're very proud when we compete for Australia. And like I said before, probably more so is that the support we get from when we're racing overseas for Australia. You know, if you can somehow get your support to the athletes and the sports that you like, that's always very helpful, and we definitely love the support. So, thanks for having me at your schools. I am going to go to sleep. It's nearly 11 o'clock p.m. over here.
Guys, can we give a big wave and a round of applause for Courtney? Thanks, Courtney. More than happy for you to sign off. I can say now the next to give you guys a little bit of a background while we try and connect with Emma. The next Olympic Games are going to be held in Rio de Janeiro, which is in Brazil in South America, and it's the first time that the Olympics are going to be hosted in a South American country, so it's very exciting. And like Courtney was saying, every sport has to do what's called a test event, where they go to Rio and they test on the course, and so that's what our triathletes were doing earlier today for them and yesterday for us. They were all racing, and one of our men called Aaron, he actually came sixth, which means he's got a qualification spot for Australia in the triathlon event in the Olympic Games, so that's very exciting. And then throughout the rest of the year, all of our triathletes will keep racing and trying to qualify more spots in different competitions, and hopefully Australia will get to send up to 6 triathletes to the event in Rio, which will be very exciting. So the Olympic Games start in 1 year, starting this Wednesday, so it's getting exciting. And Australia thinks that they'll have about 500 athletes competing.
Is it really hard in the Olympic Games?
Is it hard? Yeah, it's definitely hard. So the Olympic Games is all the top athletes all around the world. So in every single sport, there's 28 sports in the Olympic Games, and every country has to go through a long process of qualifying their athletes before they even get to go to the Olympics. So that means that they have to compete in lots of different events and prove that they're the best in their country and the best in the world. And if they can do that, then the International Olympic Committee will give them a spot in the Olympic Games. So the standard of competition is very hard. And in some events, like in swimming and in running, you have to swim, or you have to run a certain time before you can get in. And in other events, like hockey and rugby, in team sports, you have to play in lots of different competitions and come a certain place in the competition before you can get a spot. So our hockey teams, the men's and the women's hockey teams, played in Belgium recently in a big competition, in a tournament, and they both had to come in the top 3 places to get a spot in Rio, and they did that. So that means our hockey teams are definitely going to be in the Olympic Games, which is very exciting. So it's a tough competition because it's the best athletes from all around the world in all these different sports.
How many Olympics have been held?
Oh, that's a good question. I can't tell you a number off the top of my head, but in the modern world, there's been a games every 4 years, except for 1 year, since 1892. So you guys might have to do some maths and figure out how many Olympic Games that is. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but there's an Olympic Games held every 4 years.
And how many have been held in Australia?
So 2 have been held in Australia, 1 in Sydney in 2000 and 1 in Melbourne in the 60s. I can't remember exactly which year, but Australia are actually in the process at the moment of bidding for another Olympic Games. So there's a long process where if a country wants to have the right to host the Olympic Games, they have to apply through a bid to the International Olympic Committee, and they have to prove that their country is going to host a good games and have enough money to host the games. So Australia is trying to put in a bid at the moment for Queensland to host the games in 2024. So they'll bid against lots of different cities in the world, and then there'll be a vote, and the International Olympic Academy will decide which city they think will do the best job at hosting the Olympic Games.
Right. What's the hardest event that you've been in?
Well, I'm not an athlete. I work at the Olympic Committee, but I think every athlete would tell you that their sport is the hardest. I think it's different for lots of people. It depends what you're good at. Some people would think that sprinting is very hard, so the 100 meters might be the hardest event for them in the Olympics. But then other people might tell you that the marathon is the hardest because it's the longest. But a triathlon, that's 2 hours of racing pretty quickly as well. And then lots of other sports have lots of competition, lots of days of tournaments. So I think it all depends really on which athlete that you ask. And do we have any questions from you girls in Hobart? I know it's very cold down there today.
Will rugby be in the next Olympics?
Yeah, that's a great question. It will. So Rugby Sevens is going to be played in the Olympic Games for the first time in 2016. It's going to be in sevens format, so there'll be 7 players on each team on the field at a time. Other than that, the rules are all the same as your regular 15 rugby union, and our female team has actually already qualified. So we're definitely sending a girls' team to the Olympic Games. They qualified because they came 4th or in the top 4 at the end of the World Series, and our men came 5th, so they're still trying to qualify. So they'll compete in what's called the Oceania Championships, and they need to win that competition, and then if they do that, they get a spot as well. So we definitely have an Australian women's team going to the Olympics, so hopefully we'll have a men's team as well. How about we take one more question, because I think we may have lost Emma. I think her internet in Rio isn't very good, so we only got a chance to chat to Courtney quickly today.
How much people go into the Olympic Games?
Well, all up, there's about 10,000 athletes that will compete and that will live in the Olympic Village. In the Australian team, there'll be about 470 athletes. So Australia qualifies in nearly every single sport in most games. So hopefully we'll do that again this time. But there's lots of athletes from all around the world. Every country qualifies different numbers and different teams, and so it's hard to say exactly how many, but there's, you know, thousands of athletes that will compete in the Olympic Games. Alrighty, well, we might bid you all farewell and let you get back to school. Thanks for joining us today, guys.
Give Ashley a big wave.
Yeah, give us a big wave. We're gonna speak to you all again soon with some more athletes in the lead up to the Olympic Games. So